Look at your neighbor and tell them, if you're waiting for the storm to stop before you stand strong, you'll be waiting forever. Because life does not send invitations before it shakes your house. Trouble doesn't knock politely. Pressure doesn't ask permission. The storm just shows up, and when it does, it doesn't test your comfort. It tests your foundation. Some of you walked in here smiling, but inside you're battling winds nobody knows about, bills blowing, relationships shaking, dreams leaking through the roof. You prayed for peace, but God allowed pressure. You asked for calm, but He gave you a storm, not to break you, but to reveal you. Hear me today. Being steady in the storm doesn't mean you don't feel the wind. It means the wind doesn't get the final word. Waves can rise, thunder can roar, but your soul doesn't have to panic, because when you are anchored in purpose, rooted in faith, and grounded in truth, you can stand while everything else is shaking. This message is not about escaping storms. It's about learning how to stand tall while they pass. You don't need the storm to end to stay strong. You just need to remember who you are while you're in it. Storms don't arrive to destroy you. They arrive to expose what you're standing on. When life is calm, almost anything can look strong. A weak foundation can hide under sunshine, comfort, and routine. But let the wind rise. Let the pressure increase. Let disappointment shake the ground. And suddenly what was hidden becomes visible. That's why storms are not your enemy. They are your examiner. They test what applause never could. They ask questions success doesn't ask. They pull on your soul and reveal whether your strength is real or just rehearsed. Some people crumble not because the storm is too strong, but because what they were standing on was too shallow. They built their confidence on opinions, their peace on circumstances, their joy on consistency. And when any of those things shift, the whole structure begins to lean. The storm simply tells the truth. It shows you whether your faith is rooted or rented, whether your character is anchored or adjustable, whether your trust is in something eternal or something convenient. You discover in the storm what you truly believe, not what you say on good days, not what you post when things are going well, but what you cling to when everything familiar is shaking, when the phone stops ringing, when the door closes, when the plan falls apart. The storm reveals whether your hope was in the promise or in the process. It exposes whether you were trusting the source or just enjoying the supply. And here's the uncomfortable truth. God often allows storms not to punish us, but to prepare us, because a foundation that has never been tested cannot be trusted. Strength that has never been challenged is only potential. The shaking is not meant to remove you, it's meant to refine you. What cannot survive pressure was never meant to support your future. What collapses in the storm was already unstable before the clouds arrived. Some of the things you lose in the storm were never lost, they were released. The storm strips away false security, shallow confidence, borrowed beliefs. It forces you to rebuild not higher but deeper. It teaches you that real stability is not about control, but about conviction. You learn that being steady doesn't come from having answers, but from having roots. When you come out of the storm, you don't just come out relieved. You come out revealed. You know what you're made of. You know where you stand. You know what matters. And that knowledge becomes strength, because the next time the wind rises, you won't panic the same way. You won't scramble for support that can't hold you. You'll stand not because the storm is weaker, but because your foundation is stronger. The storm didn't break you. It introduced you to yourself. Stability is not something the world hands you. It's something you build inside yourself. If peace depended on perfect conditions, no one would ever have it. The mistake many people make is waiting for life to calm down before they decide to stand firm. But life doesn't work that way. Circumstances are unstable by nature. People change. Seasons shift. Plans fall apart. If your stability is tied to what's happening around you, then every external change will shake your internal state. True strength begins the moment you stop outsourcing your peace. There are people who look calm because nothing is happening, and then there are people who are calm because they've learned how to govern their inner world. The storm doesn't create chaos inside you unless you give it permission. Noise can surround you without becoming you. Pressure can press against you without possessing you. Stability is not silence. It's self-mastery. It's the ability to remain grounded even when everything feels uncertain. When you anchor your life to external validation, you give others the power to destabilize you. A word spoken carelessly, a door closed unexpectedly, a delay you didn't plan for can throw you off balance. But when your stability is internal, approval becomes a bonus, not a necessity. You stop being controlled by reactions and start responding with intention. You don't deny reality. You refuse to be ruled by it. Inner stability is built through alignment. When your values, beliefs, and actions agree, you gain weight in the spirit. You are no longer double-minded, pulled opposite directions by fear and faith, by doubt and determination. You may feel the tension, but you don't fracture under it. You learn to stand in the gap between what is and what will be without losing your balance. This kind of stability doesn't mean you never feel pain. It means pain no longer defines you. You can grieve without giving up. You can feel disappointment without surrendering your direction. You can acknowledge fear without letting it sit on the throne of your decisions. Emotional maturity is not numbness. It is control. It is the ability to feel deeply and still choose wisely. When stability is internal, chaos becomes information, not instruction. You listen to what's happening without letting it tell you who you are. You adjust where necessary, but you don't abandon your core. The wind may bend you, but it cannot break you because your strength is not borrowed from the weather. It is rooted in identity. And here is the power of internal stability. It travels with you. You don't need perfect conditions to be effective. You don't need everything to line up to move forward. Wherever you go, your center goes with you. That's why some people can lose everything and still stand tall. They didn't lose themselves in the process. Their world shook, but their soul stayed steady. Faith was never designed to be an emergency exit. It was meant to be an anchor. Too often, people treat faith like a rescue rope they grab only when the storm gets violent. But real faith doesn't remove the waves. It keeps you from being carried away by them. It doesn't stop the wind from blowing. It gives you weight when the wind tries to lift you off your footing. Faith is not about avoiding storms. It's about staying connected when the storm is doing its worst. When pressure rises, the first instinct is to look for a way out. We pray for escape, for shortcuts, for relief. But there are moments when God doesn't calm the storm because he's busy strengthening the one standing in it. The anchor doesn't change the weather. It changes your position in the weather. It holds you in place when everything else is drifting. Without an anchor, even strong vessels get lost. Without faith, even capable people get overwhelmed. Faith keeps you tethered to truth when emotions are trying to rewrite reality. Feelings are powerful, but they are unstable. One moment they lift you, the next they betray you. Faith doesn't deny how you feel. It simply refuses to let feelings lead. It reminds you of what you know when everything around you is trying to convince you otherwise. When fear says it's over, faith says not yet. When doubt says you're alone, faith says you're held. Anchored faith is developed through consistency, not convenience. It's built in the small decisions long before the big storm arrives. Every time you choose trust over panic, obedience over impulse, patience over pressure, you drop the anchor a little deeper. Then, when the waves hit hard, you're not scrambling to believe. You're already secured. The storm tests the anchor, but it doesn't remove it. There is a difference between faith that talks and faith that holds. Talking faith sounds good in calm waters, but holding faith proves itself when the current pulls hard. This kind of faith doesn't need constant reassurance. It doesn't fall apart when answers are delayed. It doesn't walk away when clarity is missing. It stays connected even when it doesn't understand. An anchor works quietly. It doesn't make noise. It doesn't draw attention to itself. It simply does its job beneath the surface. In the same way, faith often operates unseen. People may not know how you're still standing, how you're still moving forward, how you're still hopeful. But faith is working below the surface, keeping you from drifting into despair. The storm will eventually pass, but the strength of your anchor will determine where you end up when it does. Faith doesn't just help you survive the storm. It decides whether you emerge closer to your purpose or farther from it. You may be battered, but you're not broken. You may be shaken, but you're not swept away. Because faith didn't help you escape. It helped you endure. Resistance is not evidence that you are going the wrong way. Many times it is proof that you are finally going the right way. Nothing grows without pressure. Muscles strengthen by being stretched. Faith matures by being tested, and character is refined by friction. If everything in your life is easy, smooth, and uncontested, you may be comfortable, but you are not growing. Growth demands resistance, and storms are one of its most powerful tools. We often pray for open doors, but we forget that doors are heavy. They require strength to push, endurance to hold, and persistence to walk through. Resistance trains you for responsibility. It builds the capacity you will need for the next level. What feels like opposition is often preparation in disguise. The weight you're carrying now is developing muscles you didn't even know you would need. When you face resistance, something inside you has to decide whether you will retreat or rise. This is where growth becomes personal. You learn who you are when quitting would be easier. You discover your depth when shallow effort no longer works. Resistance forces you to be intentional, focused, and disciplined. It strips away excuses and exposes commitment. You can no longer rely on motivation alone. You must lean into purpose. Storms don't just test strength, they create it. Each challenge stretches your tolerance, sharpens your perspective, and toughens your resolve. What once overwhelmed you no longer has the same power, not because life got lighter, but because you got stronger. The resistance you survive becomes the reference point for your confidence. You remember what you endured, and it reminds you of what you can handle. There is also wisdom born in resistance. Easy seasons don't require strategy. Hard seasons demand it. You learn to listen more carefully, move more deliberately, and trust more deeply. Resistance slows you down just enough to teach you lessons speed would have skipped. It refines your priorities and clarifies what truly matters. You stop wasting energy on things that don't contribute to your growth. Many people misunderstand resistance and label it as failure. But resistance is not rejection. It is refinement. It is the process of being shaped for endurance. Diamonds are not formed by comfort, but by pressure. Gold is not purified by ease, but by fire. In the same way, you are being shaped into someone who can carry more, handle more, and stand longer than before. When you emerge from resistance, you don't just have results, you have resilience. You walk differently. You speak with quiet authority. You carry yourself with a steadiness that cannot be taught in comfort. The storm didn't just pass through your life, it left something behind. Strength, wisdom, depth, and that growth forged in resistance becomes the very thing that keeps you steady when the next storm comes. Calm is not the absence of noise, it is the presence of control. There will be moments when everything around you is loud, opinions clashing, demands piling up, problems competing for your attention. The world does not slow down when you need clarity. In fact, chaos often gets louder when you are trying to move forward. But inner calm is not dependent on external volume. It is a learned discipline, a practiced strength that allows you to remain centered while everything else is trying to pull you apart. Being calm in the middle of noise does not mean you are disconnected or unaware. It means you are selective about what you allow to influence you. Not every voice deserves your attention, and not every situation deserves your reaction. When you react to everything, you surrender control. Calm gives you back authority over your responses. It creates space between what happens to you and how you choose to handle it. The loudest moments in life often pressure you to rush. Panic pushes you toward impulsive decisions, emotional responses, and short-term thinking. Calm slows the moment down. It gives you the ability to think clearly, to see beyond the immediate disruption, and to act with intention instead of fear. This is why calm is powerful. It allows wisdom to surface when emotion is demanding the microphone. Inner calm is built by learning where to place your focus. Chaos feeds on scattered attention. The more directions you look, the more unstable you feel. Calm comes when you anchor your attention to what is within your control, your mindset, your choices, your values. You may not control the storm, but you can control how you stand in it. That focus becomes your still point in a spinning world. There is also courage in calm. Staying composed when everything is shaking is not weakness. It is strength under restraint. It takes discipline to breathe when fear says panic. It takes maturity to stay silent when anger wants to speak. Calm does not deny emotion, it governs it. You feel the weight, but you do not let it crush your posture or your purpose. People often underestimate the influence of calm. A steady presence can shift an entire environment. When you remain grounded, others begin to settle. When you refuse to escalate chaos, you interrupt its momentum. Calm becomes contagious. It changes the temperature of the room without raising its voice. This kind of calm is not accidental. It is cultivated through reflection, self-awareness, and trust. You learn to pause, to listen inwardly, to respond thoughtfully. Over time, calm becomes your default rather than your exception. You stop being surprised by noise because you expect it. You stop being shaken by pressure because you've learned how to stand still inside. The storm can shout, but it does not have to speak for you. When you master calm in loud moments, you discover that peace is not fragile, it is firm. It does not run from chaos, it rises above it. And in that calm, you find clarity, strength, and the quiet confidence to keep moving forward. Storms have an expiration date even when they feel endless. The rain may linger, the wind may howl, and the ground may shake, but nothing that comes to challenge you is built to stay forever. What is temporary often feels permanent when you are standing in the middle of it. Pain stretches time, pressure distorts perspective, but just because the storm is loud does not mean it is lasting. What will outlive the storm is who you become while enduring it. Strength is not borrowed from circumstances, it is forged through them. When the storm passes, it leaves behind more than relief. It leaves behind evidence. Evidence that you survived, evidence that you adapted, evidence that you endured what you once thought would break you. That strength doesn't disappear when the sky's clear. It stays with you, shaping how you face the next challenge, how you trust, how you stand. Many people measure victory by the absence of struggle, but real victory is revealed in permanence. The storm may knock things over, but it cannot erase what has been built inside you. It may change your environment, but it cannot undo your growth. What you gain in the storm becomes part of you. Wisdom, resilience, discernment. These are not seasonal gifts. They are lasting transformations. When you understand that storms are temporary, you stop giving them permanent authority. You stop making lifelong decisions based on momentary pain. You stop surrendering your identity to a passing season. The storm becomes a chapter, not the whole story. It has a voice, but not the final word. This perspective keeps you from despair and anchors you in hope. There is a confidence that comes from knowing you have already survived worse. It doesn't make you arrogant. It makes you grounded. You no longer panic at the first sign of trouble because you recognize the pattern. You've seen clouds before. You've felt the wind before. And you know that just like before, this too will pass. The storm loses its power to intimidate when you remember its history of leaving. Your strength, however, continues to accumulate. Each storm adds to it. Each trial layers it. Over time, you carry a quiet assurance that cannot be shaken by sudden change. You don't need constant reassurance because experience has already taught you the truth. You have stood in uncertainty and remained upright. You have faced loss and still moved forward. That knowledge becomes unshakable. The storm may take things from you, but it also gives something back, clarity. You see what matters. You see who you are. You see what you can survive. And when the sky's finally clear, you don't just walk away relieved. You walk away refined. The storm was temporary, but the strength it produced is permanent. And that strength becomes your foundation for whatever comes next. Hear me as I close. The storm did not come to bury you. It came to prove you. What tried to shake you could not remove you. What roared around you did not rule you. You are still standing, still breathing, still believing. That means the storm met something it could not conquer. So lift your head, plant your feet, and fix your eyes, for the wind may still be blowing, but you are not going anywhere. You were built for this. You are anchored, you are rooted, you are steady. And when the storm passes, it won't remember you, but you will remember who you became.